When indie developer Mobius Digital released Outer Wilds in 2019, the gaming community was blessed with a compelling story, charming characters and atmospheres, interesting environments, and innovative mechanics allowing the story to unfold however the player saw fit. The game struck a chord with thousands of people and in many people's hearts, some of their fondest gaming memories. Since then, Outer Wilds received critical acclaim, overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and a very special place in people's hearts and minds. It's truly one of the greatest games that I've ever played, and some of my fondest gaming memories are in Outer Wilds. It really is that good. In fact, it's had such an impact on players that if you read Steam comments, which I highly suggest you don't do to avoid spoilers, especially if you're a first-time player, you'll come to know that people often wish they had amnesia or Alzheimer's so they could experience it all over again for the first time. That's the kind of impact this game has had on thousands of players from around the world. In the base game and Echoes of the Eye, you're given complete freedom to embark on one of the grandest journeys. A journey for the ages, and an emotionally charged and meaningful story with lovable characters and memorable exotic locations. And like most great stories, it builds and builds to an epic conclusion. But first, it starts small. And like most epic tales, it begins with a single step. Or a single flight, for that matter. Things move slow in Timber Hearth, and the citizens there learn to appreciate the small things, and they don't take anything for granted, like sitting around a campfire with friends and listening to music and roasting marshmallows. You play as an unnamed astronaut looking to make the Hearthian community proud by piloting his first vessel on his first mission to trek across the solar system in search for answers. To browse the cosmic gallery in an attempt to understand the nature and the grandiosity of the universe, all without forgetting the need to stop and smell the pine trees along the way. Throughout the duration of the game, you are given the most minimum amount of information available to you to progress wherever it is you seek to go. That's the key selling point of this game, is that it's your adventure. It's your story. And you can write it however you choose to. You can go where you want, and the only thing limiting your progression is your knowledge. How you gain this knowledge is entirely up to you, the player. There is no single way to play, and you are rewarded for thinking outside the box, as there is no hand-holding whatsoever. Something that seems to be lacking from larger developers as of late. There are often times you make discoveries by simply exhausting all available options. It continually keeps you on your feet, and it encourages you to recall what you've learned. Like the point-and-click puzzle and adventure games of old, you are required to pay close attention to your surroundings, the sounds, the environment, even time itself is a character in this narrative. There were many times playing Outer Wilds that I was reminded of days past, playing games like Riven and Myst. In a grand universe with so much to do, it can be overwhelming for some. Where do I go? What do I do? Where are the quest markers? The beauty within this game is that there isn't necessarily a clear objective other than to just do. To just get into your ship and go. And on numerous occasions, just winging it can be just as much an answer as a well thought out and logical approach to problem solving. Outer Wilds and Echoes of the Eye are puzzle solving adventure games of the highest caliber on the grandest scale. With a beautiful score, charming characters, and interesting locations, it truly is a masterpiece. A masterpiece that's had a profound emotional impact on thousands of players, including myself. So when Echoes of the Eye was released, the first and supposedly only DLC for Outer Wilds, I was so excited to get back into my ship, fire up my rockets, and see what Mobius Digital had in store for me. Throughout my playthrough of Echoes of the Eye, I constantly felt the need to explore and learn as much as I could. And like the base game, I was rewarded for my exploration and my curiosity. With each new discovery, I felt charged and excited to keep me going, and I couldn't wait to learn more. The gameplay is just as engaging as before, and also like before, you are given the minimum amount of information for you to unveil each mystery. One thing I did immediately notice was that it was seemingly more difficult than the base game. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be frustrating at times. A lot of the puzzles you seem to be solving often lead to dead ends, and it can be annoying. But if you persevere, there is something worthwhile at the end, I assure you. For the most part, it dances elegantly on the line of frustration and excitement, being just frustrating enough to push you forward and keep provoking interesting questions. I can't really go into the game any more than that, or the issues that I had, because merely bringing up these issues could potentially be a spoiler to a new player, and I would never rob anyone of this magnificent experience for the first time. There are some new elements added to the DLC that progresses into a light horror experience. There is even a less scary option in the settings, which I never touched, so I don't know exactly what it does, but it's there for those that are easily startled. There are also some stealth elements added to the game, which gives it a new dynamic. Some beautiful new tracks were added to the soundtrack that I'm sure you'll enjoy as much as I did. It adds a new dimension to the world that you've become accustomed to. Minus my frustrations with the DLC, albeit they are minor, it is worth every penny in my opinion, and it doesn't feel like a typical DLC. A typical DLC in these days usually means that it's just a small add-on, some new areas, a couple minor quests, but Echoes of the Eye is a thoughtful journey unto itself, and it deserves whatever praise it receives. It works well as a standalone story without taking away from the core of the main story. The way they have integrated it into the game is smooth and logical in its approach, and I was excited every time I got into my ship and launched into space. My biggest concern initially was, how would this be for new players? How would this journey integrate into a first-time playing experience? After giving it some thought, I believe it would integrate rather nicely if a new player were to purchase the bundle and begin their journey anew with both contents available. In fact, I rather envy those that get to do this. To experience both of these stories for the first time is something that I and many others long to do again. That seems to be the only complaint I hear of Outer Wilds, is that players wish that they could experience it all over again for the first time. The journey was memorable, highly engaging, and very satisfying. Technically, the game runs well and buttery smooth unless you're on a high-end machine, which some users have reported needing to adjust the physics settings via a TXT file within the game. There is a tutorial on Steam if stuttering issues become a problem that you can utilize. I didn't have any technical issues to speak of, but it's something to be aware of before purchasing. Echoes of the Eye is available on Steam for $14.99 or as a bundle for $37.99 for those who have yet to experience Outer Wilds. Obviously, if you haven't played the base game, you'll need that in order to start Echoes of the Eye. Overall, the experience took me a few days as I was in no rush, being this is the only DLC for Outer Wilds we are likely to get. The flood of emotions and prior adventures was immediate upon starting the game, and when I fired up Outer Wilds and loaded into Timber Hearth, I just felt as though I was around friends and loved ones. It just felt right. It felt like home. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves and each other.